Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to the channel. It is 7:34 a.m. East Coast time, Friday, September 27th, and we are almost done with the Week 4 prep. Today, I want to go through my running back rankings. This will help you for the entire week in terms of season-long, helping on Sunday. Definitely some tidbits to take away. This will also help you if you want to play specifically on a site like Drafters, which we'll be using for our rankings board. I'm playing on Drafters. They have a free Alvin Kamara signed jersey last week, or they've done so far this year, a Saquon Barkley giveaway. Last year, DeAndre Hopkins, so free Alvin Kamara signed jersey. Right now, there's only 600 people, I believe, in it. Then they also have other prize pools of like $2, $55. So we're going to be using this as like the rankings board, and then we're going to be referencing just my overall stat sheet here. This is filtered by Draftkings salary, so if you're somebody who doesn't play on Draftkings, just don't worry about it. It's going to be fine. I'm just going to do my rankings for it. If you're somebody who does play on Draftkings, well, then there's going to be correlations that you can definitely pick up on. Welcome to the channel if you're new here. Hopefully you've seen the rest of my content for this week, my final picks videos, my Monday, my Thursday night football shows. One That Dude will be out later today in terms of one player that I'm really keying in on this week. And yeah, so hopefully this has been helpful. My name is Sal. I do cover daily fantasy sports in the NFL, NBA, WNBA, and MLB streets. So be sure to check out any of the content from this week. Check out the things down below in the description. That is also all. There's some freebies down there. There's Twitter at SalVetriDFS. Interested in learning more about daily fantasy sports, there's a course that I'm offering $100 off because we hit 10,000 subscribers this week. We're already about to hit 11,000, which is wild. So if you're interested in that, if you want $100 off that course, comment down below. Give me the coupon. Say, can I have that coupon, man? And I'll send you the coupon. So just let me know. I'll comment it back to you. But right now we're going to do these running back rankings. Like I said, we're going to reference Drafters. I'll link up drafters.com if you're interested in playing on their site. It's just another type of site where you do exactly like you're seeing right here. You rank your running backs, and the guy, if it could be running back, wide receiver, quarterback, the guy who is in the top spot will get 10x the points. Second spot will get 9x. So let's start this bad boy off with what I would say is a somewhat obvious choice, but something that I feel confident about. Christian McCaffrey. The Texans are good on the interior. DJ Reader, I've been saying his name a lot this week, but he's been very, very good on the interior. Vita Vea's been fantastic from like Tampa, but not a lot of guys have been as good as DJ Reader against the run on an interior defense, but everywhere else they're pretty bad. We know the upside that Christian McCaffrey has. We've seen the ceiling week 1. We've seen the somewhat semi-ceiling last week of 30 fantasy points. So, yeah, McCaffrey is somebody that I do want to get to in a matchup against Houston. And, yeah, when you're getting a guy that you feel good about his floor and his ceiling, and then you get to put him in a rankings, obviously it feels good, but then also a spot where you want 10x out of a player, I feel the best about getting the ceiling and floor game in combination of that more times than not than any other running back on the slate. And this slate will be featuring the Sunday night game as well, just to let you know. So if you're like a Yahoo player or a fantasy draft player, you will have access to that juicy, maybe, Dallas Cowboys offense, and then some pieces like Alvin Kamara, Michael Thomas, depending on what type of format you're playing, of that Saints. So next guy for me is I'm going to skip Zeke and Alvin Kamara. I'm going to go to Austin Eckler. So Justin Jackson just popped up on the injury report Thursday. It's never good when a guy pops up on the injury report midweek. Austin Eckler probably in line for this game of like 17, 18 touches. If you have no Justin Jackson, all they have after that is Tromaine Pope and then Derek Watt, a fullback. They're not going to rely on Pope even in a blowout all that much. So I think Eckler is in line if indeed Justin Jackson misses on Friday, which just increases my interest in Eckler even more in a week where Melvin Gordon's coming back next week. They want to get these guys as much touches as they can while they're here, right, and actually taking on primary responsibilities before Gordon gets back. Yeah, Austin Eckler is a guy that I think sees 18 touches at a minimum if Justin Jackson's out there. If he's not out there, I think you see Austin Eckler touching the 20 to 24 even a touch count. Right now I have him projected for, I believe, 18, but that'll be definitely getting bumped up to probably 22 if indeed you see Justin Jackson out. And then just the matchup's fantastic. Miami giving up the most rushing yards per game, over 200 per game to the running back position. They're bottom 5 in run DVOA. They're bottom 5 in Pro Football Focus run defense. And it's just a huge, albeit on the road in Miami, but a 15-point favorite team for Austin Eckler. And he's only one of 2 running backs with Leonard Fournette right now, who has at least 6 targets in every single game that they played in. He has at least 6 catches, I believe, in every single game. 6 catches in week 2, 7 catches last week, caught all 7 of his targets. He leads the league in yards per route run for the running back position, so he's not running the most routes, albeit top 5 routes run, but he's getting the most yards in his routes run, so he's the most efficient and most effective running back in the passing game through 3 weeks. So yes, Austin Eckler grades out for me very well in my own projections, which are interested in those. If you are interested, I have them up on Patreon. They're linked down below. But yeah, that's where I'm at right now. Next up on the docket, I'm going to go to Alvin Kamara here. I'm going to get to Kamara over Zeke, over some other players. Alvin Kamara, look, everybody slept on him last week, and he goes absolutely bonkers. And it makes sense. You have a very good coach in Sean Payton, even with a backup quarterback in Teddy Bridgewater. You can still get an offense to do some things. if indeed you have a guy like Kamara, and he's not on the stat sheet, so I wanted to show some things. But I mean, his elusive rating is still up there. His just breakaway, the way that he's like a pinball, is just fantastic. What he can do, and now you get his matchup against the Dallas defense that has looked pretty solid, but they have not faced anybody like an Alvin Kamara yet. Not even close in my opinion. I mean, they faced Saquon Barkley week 1, and Saquon went for over 100 yards on the ground on 11 touches, and then he got some in the air. So Saquon goes for 120 yards on limited touches, less than 15. I feel pretty confident about Kamara in a game where he's going to have all the opportunities in the world, both in the receiving game because they're thin at wide receiver. Keith Kirkwood on IR, Traquan Smith still battling some injuries. It's Michael Thomas. It's the Alvin Kamara show, as it usually is, but now more so even not. Definitely Kamara with a backup quarterback to rely on him. So I like Kamara here. Next up on the docket, this is a close call. But I think I'm going to slightly give the edge to David Johnson over Zeke. The reason being is David Johnson's running the most routes in the league right now at the running back position, and he missed like a quarter and a half week 2 due to his wrist injury, and he's still running the most routes. Like usually that means you're going to drop off probably 6 to 8 to 10 routes, probably 6 to 8 really, and he's still running the most routes. So just imagine he's tied with McCaffrey. So just imagine if he played that quarter and a half, he'd be the leader by 6 to 8 routes, which is phenomenal. That's how much he's being used. Last year, he wasn't used at all as a receiver. This is a game that I think is going to feature very fast pace. The Cardinals are going to be pushing that pace many of times, but against Seattle should feature very fast pace. Should feature a game where Seattle takes the lead more times than not, and you have to pass it a little bit more. And David Johnson, if he's going to see 6 or 7 targets, he's going to see all the goal line responsibilities. He's going to see 85% of the usage. Yeah, give me David Johnson more so than Zeke, who I think I'm still fine, obviously, with Zeke. It's just a tougher matchup, in my opinion. And then next, I do get to Zeke here. So let me uncover these. And David Johnson, something that I wanted to point out by David Johnson, I do have interest this week. You can see that the pace for me is projected to be the fastest pace game on the slate for David Johnson. And a couple of things right here. He's averaging 5.67 targets per game. If you want this stat sheet and all my other positional stat sheets linked up down below on Patreon, he's on 80% of the snaps, and that was with him missing a whole quarter. And this is the big thing. His offensive line is only forcing 10% stuff percentage. So only 1 out of every 10 times David Johnson touches the ball is getting stuffed and blown up in the backfield. That's very good. You can see some offensive lines are allowing it to happen 3 out of 10 times, which is clearly not good for overall success in a game where if you're only going to run 15 times, every single fifth carry or whatever it might be is just getting blown up is not great. But yeah, you can see David Johnson averaging close to 6 targets per game. We said leading the league in routes run at the running back position, tied with McCaffrey. Obviously fantastic. Give me David Johnson. Zeke, not much bad things to say about Zeke. The workload's going to be there. Even if Tony Pollard continues to see 6 to 8 plus touches a game, depending on the week. I think 2 weeks have been inflated by week 1, Zeke coming back and them taking control of that game and then not wanting to push him. And then obviously last week just a blowout against Miami. So I do think Zeke's role is pretty stabilized in for around 25 touches. Interesting to not see him in the receiving game as much. I think that starts to pick up a little bit more. But a tough matchup actually against New Orleans. I know that week 1, like New Orleans gave up a bunch of rushing yards to Carlos Hyde and Duke Johnson. But overall, this run defense should be fine as the year progresses. But Zeke, just the upside that he has, what I expect regression in the receiving game, the upside that he has when it comes to all the goal line work, and even if you do have 2 to 3 series for Tony Pollard and 6 touches, if that equals out to, I still think more times than not you get Zeke going for 24 touches in a game. So he definitely has to be somebody that I would like if I get him as a 6x multiplier on this site on Drafters. Again, linked up down below if interested. I do like that. Let's see where I go next. I think I know where I go next. I just want to make sure I know where I go next. My 6th option. Yeah, so I think so David Johnson's not supposed to be that highly up there. This one is supposed to be Eckler. And then David Johnson, I threw up above Zeke for this video's purposes. But next up, for me is a guy that I really like and potentially will be that one dude. We'll see. But Marlon Mack. Marlon Mack's just in a fantastic spot this week. It really doesn't get better for the situation that Marlon Mack has. He's a big home favorite, facing a team or facing his own team that is not going to probably have T.Y. Hilton. So they already want to run the most. They run 61 times for Marlon Mack, is the most out of any running back in the league right now. He's averaging over 20 rushes a game. And last week, he only ran the ball 16 times because he was limited. And he had 2 catches for 18 total touches, 84 yards, I believe, and a touchdown. And now he gets a fantastic spot against Oakland, who has a bottom 5 run defense according to Pro Football Focus. Again, he's running a lot of routes. He's 17th in the league in routes run for a running back. That doesn't sound like a lot, but for Marlon Mack, it is. A guy who really wasn't running routes last year. Now he's staying on the field on all 3 downs. His teammate Nyheim Hines, who was considered the guy who takes him off the field for 3rd down situations, 45th in routes run. So Nyheim Hines is just not coming on the field. Marlon Mack's staying on the field. He's the goal line back. We saw last week and the week before. He's averaging over 20 touches per game on the ground alone. He's been seeing 3 targets each of the weeks so far on average. So yeah, if you're telling me that Marlon Mack for this game is going to project out for 20 touches, which he does for me, and he's going to face a below average run defense, well below average, and he is a home favorite, a decent sized one, yeah, give me Marlon Mack. And I believe that Marlon Mack also does not face, as we touched on with David Johnson, I believe Marlon Mack faces even lower 8 men in the box percentage. Where is that one? Okay, so Marlon Mack's 8 men in the box percentage came up a lot last week. He was only seeing 8 men in the box on 7% of his carries last week. He must have seen it on about a third of them because it came up to 18%. But you can see Marlon Mack right now, 20.33 attempts per game, leads the league. Fantastic. 8 red zone attempts already, which is obviously something else that you like to look at. 56% success rate. That's top 5 on the slate. We talked about, or we're about to talk about somebody else who has a really good success rate, the highest on the slate, but success rate matters. It keeps drives alive. It obviously shows your efficiency as a running back, keeps you on the field as well. Kind of calling your own number there. Next up, I'm going to go number 7, Mark Ingram. Mark Ingram, this spot's actually a lot better than people think. So Mark Ingram, week 1 was taken off the field because of a blowout, and then he's seen 60% of the snaps the last 2 weeks. But he leads the league in success rate, and we'll go back to my model here. But he leads the league right now in success rate and success factor at 63%, which is insane, and leads the league in DR, which usually equals having a good success rate. As you can see right here, second in the league in DR is Dalvin Cook, has a good success rate, so on and so forth. Marlon Mack, good DR, good success rate. Same can be said for Josh Jacobs. So the DR just means he's getting the most yards out of any running back that would in his neutral situations. And then when you factor in neutral defenses and other running backs, 63% success rate, it just means how many yards do you pick up? I don't know the exact equation, but it's like how often do you pick up 4 yards on first down, 3 yards on second down, and then pick up third and short, something like that. I don't know what it is, but he's leading the league by a wide margin. He's leading this slate by a decent margin of 4% over LeSean McCoy, and LeSean McCoy is a much smaller sample. So Mark Ingram is not only the goal line back, hence by his 6 touchdowns so far this year, or 5, whatever it is, but then you can see actually right here, he's not only the goal line back, but he is receiving right now a fantastic line play. Adjusted line play is one of the best in the league. Only a 9% stuff percentage. So we talked about how good you had of a stuff percentage for a David Johnson at 10%. Yeah, well, Mark Ingram's for his line is even better. He's 1 out of every 11 or 12 touches getting stuff, which is just clearly fantastic. And I do want to check something here. I do want to check what the exact, because it's not pulling over just because his name is Mark Ingram II. So I do want to check what Mark Ingram's rushing red zone attempts are, because this is going to be important. So let's make this Mark Ingram II on this other sheet where I pull from, and then that'll pop it up over here. 11. There you go. Fantastic. So Christian McCaffrey leads the league, or leads this slate with Josh Jacobs in 12 red zone attempts. And then number 2, tied with Philip Lindsay, which is interesting to see Philip Lindsay's name there, but is Mark Ingram. So Mark Ingram, I mean, when you see that many touchdowns, you expect a lot of red zone attempts, but almost double the red zone attempts as touchdown just means that he's touching the ball nonstop in the red zone. I like Mark Ingram as my 7th player in this sample here. Next up, Kerryon Johnson for me. So Kerryon, the downsides with Kerryon Johnson is the fact that he's going to be facing the Chiefs, and that can potentially turn into an absolute blowout. The good news is that he's at home, which honestly might help Patrick Mahomes more playing in a dome. Only time he's ever done that, he goes for over 600 yards. But yeah, Kerryon Johnson going to be playing at home as an underdog, which is worrisome, but he's coming off career high 75% snaps, career high 20% touches on the ground. Now he faces a Chiefs defense that is dead last this year in Pro Football Focus against the run, and even dating back to last year, if you take that whole sample of 19 regular season games, dead last against the run. Kerryon Johnson, in the release of C.J. Anderson, I thought Ty Johnson would go from 20% of the snaps to 30 to 40%. But it just kept Ty Johnson last week at least at 20% of the snaps, and it kept Kerryon Johnson, or really not kept, but pushed him all the way up. So Kerryon for me grades out as very good value on Draftkings at his price point at $5,400, which is what this is filtered by. But then it gets even better when you don't have to have a salary cap on it, because he's a very contrarian play in my opinion, and a total that is very high, albeit that total is being forced by a lot of Kansas City. But a 24 team total for him is pretty good. A team that wants to just absolutely run the ball, in my opinion, in the line. So at least for the first half of that game, probably to establish some sort of run. And if the game stays close, it's even better. You have Kerryon so far averaging 16 attempts per game, and his snap percentage is only going to continue to come up. The only downside is he leads the league in 8-man boxes that he has faced, but again, it's a 3-game sample, so a lot of that can be heavily skewed, I would say. Let's get back to my rankings here. These are going to be probably different, but that's fine. Mark Ingram, yeah, so these are different just because I'm ranking them for something else. Number 9, Lenny Fournette. Yeah, Leonard Fournette's in a tough matchup against Denver. We know how inefficient he was. Everybody saw it last Thursday night when he had a 69-yard, very nice run, and that only got him to 63 total yards in the game. He was just negative on 14 or 13 attempts before that. So I don't really care about that, though. I care that he played 100% of the snaps. I care that he played 97% of the snaps the week before. I care that Lenny Fournette is the only one of 2 running backs with Austin Eckler to see at least 6 targets in each game, and he's top 5 in routes run by a running back. I care that he's not leaving the field. Like I said, 100% of the snaps this past week, 97% last week, high 80s in week 1. He's just not leaving the field, and he's a guy who's going to score touchdowns. Like, he has 0 this year. A lot of sharps are going to be on Lenny Fournette this week. His ownership is like mid-teens right now on DraftKings, which is higher than I would expect and many people probably expect, but it's because this is a guy that we expect to score 8 to 10 touchdowns if he stays healthy, and he has 0 through 3 weeks. So touchdown regression is coming, whether it's 1 or 2, whether it's this week or next week. It's coming very soon on a short 16-game NFL season. If you only have 3 rushing touchdowns, or if you only have 0, if you have 0 rushing touchdowns through 3 weeks, there's a very great chance regression is coming for a guy who is going to get all the touches, especially when he's on the field for all the snaps. Let's just look at some of his key stats right now. So right now for Leonard Fournette, obviously not a lot of great things. Like, the success rate is down. We know that for lots of reasons. We know how terrible he's just been in general. But when you're averaging 6.67 targets per game, you're on the field for 94% of your snaps, and you're getting also around 14. So right now he's averaging per game 21 touches. That's phenomenal. You're telling me he's averaging 21 touches and he hasn't even started to see red zone touches that much. He only has 3 red zone touches. We know that's going to change. We know as long as they continue to get into the red zone, albeit against a tough run defense here in Denver, but the pass defense is going to be injured right now. Bryce Callahan's out. They have a couple of defensive backs out. So, yeah, I think Leonard Fournette's an interesting play on DraftKings, and I think he's definitely viable in this format of ranking just 10 players. My 10th interest is actually going to be Wayne Gallman. So this is interesting. I'm not playing Dalvin Cook. I'm not playing fumbleitis Chris Carson. I'm not playing Todd Gurley against a stout run defense. I'm not playing Dalvin Cook against an even more stout run defense. But Wayne Gallman here, I projected for 18 total touches, 16 rushes, and 2 catches on 4 targets is what I'm projecting right now for Wayne Gallman, in a spot where if Terry McLaurin sits out this game, because he popped up on the Thursday injury report. Now, maybe by the time you're watching this, he's fully healthy and it's fine. But if he sits out, that even helps Wayne Gallman even more. The only reason you feel really bad about Gallman is, well, what happens if Washington gets ahead and Gallman is kind of phased out a little bit? Not that good of a pass-catching running back, but he's a really good pass protector. He'll stay on the field, but maybe not as many attempts. If McLaurin's out, there's a really good chance that the success or the idea and the chances that Washington gets ahead reduces a lot more, right? McLaurin's a quick strike guy, can keep your drives alive. If he's out, well, lots more stall drives for Washington means lots of more possessions for the Giants, means lots of more opportunities to score for the Giants if they have more possessions. So I do like Wayne Gallman. I think he stays on the field 90% of the time. They only have a fullback in Elijah Penny, and then they have Hilleman, who they signed, but they're going to keep Wayne Gallman on. He's a much better pass protector. He's an average running back. He's around average to below average pass-catching running back as well. In terms of an open space, he's probably below average, but in terms of just catching the ball, he's an NFL player. He'll be able to catch it. So Wayne Gallman is my 10th ranked. I'm not going to give you any reserves, but this is what I'm going to be entering. I guess I'll just put reserves in just so we can enter it live right here. Let's see. I guess in my reserve spot, I'll put Nick Chubb just because of the opportunities that he has, and then Derrick Henry. And then we'll join. And bang. So you can join other contests as well if you want. I'll just join this into the $2. So there we go. Join it. Got like $10 in my account. There we go. Cool. All right. So that's it. I joined the $2. The $2 right now, if you have it. So you have the Alvin Kamara, obviously signed jersey. The $2 on here is $220 to enter and $300 to first, which is pretty damn good. Just playing for fun. But if you don't want to play any money, you have Alvin Kamara. If you want to play upper stakes, there's a $55 tournament with $1,000 to first. So check it all out. Definitely a cool, interesting format, a different format over on Drafters. And again, it's totally free to play for a signed Alvin Kamara helmet. I thought it was a jersey, so it's a helmet. All good. That's where my rankings are right now for this format. That's kind of where they're lining up for the week, really, as well. Maybe I got a little bit contrarian by going with David Johnson higher than some other guys like Marlon Mack, because price then comes into play on other sites. But for a site that doesn't have pricing coming into play, that's where I would go. That is drafters.com. Be sure to check it out. I'll link it up down below. But also, be sure to check out anything else in the description. If you want these stat sheets for every single position, the key stats right here that I use the most, as well as some other ones that is linked up on Patreon. My ownership and leverage show is out on Patreon. It's a 40-minute show about all the spots that I think are good and bad in the ownership and interesting pivot spots. So thank you. Appreciate you tuning in for this one. My name's Sal. Best of luck this weekend. You already know my name. Peace out, gang.
Hey, hold up. 1 second. Check out this page. If you haven't yet subscribed, hit the subscribe button, all right? And if you're interested in Patreon, if you're not already a patron, you can hit that button on Patreon, become a patron. It will take you right there. You can also check me out on Twitter at SalVetri DFS. And hey, if you're interested, this next video that's about to pop up, why don't you check it out as well. See ya.